That's your line.
Yeah. Just go now.
Yeah. So once you finish, click end stream.
Okay.
It half it. Yeah, you can start. That's the time.
Okay. I can change this to I want to find the verse, 21:9:16. Okay, no problem. Nobody can speak back on this system, can they?
No, they can type, but they can't speak. People will type here. But yeah.
Hare Krishna, everybody. So welcome to this evening's, or this Friday's, it should be Bhagavad Gita, but I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam actually. And the title is, when we're locking down out, what's the title again?
Unlocking Bhakti in lockdown.
Unlocking Bhakti in lockdown. That's right. So I chose a verse by Bhishmadev, about Bhishmadev, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, chapter 9. So before we go, we'll just do the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 With this much. Just to.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is chapter 9, canto 1, chapter 9, take 16. So I'll just recite the, if you've got your mobiles, you can follow on your mobile. Na yasya karichit rajan uman veda vidistitam yadvijin vijitnasya yukta muyanti kavayopihi. O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So you can recite that yourself together, because I can't hear you. But you can just do it for yourself. I'll just repeat it again. O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Dayananda Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhisthira over his past sinful acts and the resultant suffering, etc., is completely negated by the great authority Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhisthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can be understood about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. And the best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The suffering of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhisthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord, because the Lord wanted to show that fighters like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. Om Gyanti Mirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravan Vichayane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pastatyala Deshatari. So Bhishma Dev is one of the Mahajans. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. Komara Kapalam. So the Mahajans are Mahajana Yena Gatasapanta. We cannot understand the path of religion without, being in the line of the Mahajans. And, at the end of his life, Bhishma Dev, it says here that Krishna wanted to show that he couldn't, even if we're such a great fighter, and even so we're so materially adept as Bhishma Dev was in fighting, that unless we actually understand the plan of the Lord and we choose to actually facilitate that plan according to our particular ability, then we'll be unsuccessful in our activities. Even such a great person as Bhishma Dev. So this is the difference. There's the demons and there's the demigods. Demigods follow the Shastra. Demons don't follow the Shastra. So everything depends on, we have an everyday choice. Every moment we have a choice. Do we want to follow the plan of the Lord? Yashastra Vidimushricha Vartate Kamakarata Nasasidim Avapnatim Nasukam Na Paramgatim. Unless we follow the plan, then it says that we can't achieve any auspicious qualities, any auspicious result. Downstairs I've got my children on the radiator. It's a bit cold. Sorry, Mark. The plan of the Lord. So it was inconceivable to the people at that time. There was about the Battle of Kurukshetra, and so many things happened before the battle that, the Lord, he doesn't actually he could put his foot down straight away. He could just, do what he wanted. He could do what he wanted and change the whole surface of the earth in a moment, and everybody would have to, kowtow to the way he wanted things to be done. But simultaneously, he has to fulfill the desires of the living entity. He doesn't interfere with their independence. And so he has the thankless task of trying to interfere without interfering, in an indirect way. This is the way the Supreme Lord preaches. He's not bull in a china shop preaching where we just say what we think. He may be correct, but it doesn't usually have the correct result. So usually it takes indirect preaching. And all the Battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord was drawing everybody in. First was the Mahabharata, everybody's interested in the Mahabharata because there's such intrigue and so many different situations that, people really become enthralled in them, just like the modern day soap operas. People, they can't wait till whatever night, Tuesday night or Wednesday night when the soap opera's on and they're all around the television. But it's not the same as the Mahabharata by a long shot. And so similarly in the Mahabharata, people all focusing when the Mahabharata was prevalent in, it was being shown in India, they would even stop the bus and get out. The bus driver would get out and go to the nearest television and watch it, then he'd start the bus up when it's finished. So, but in the middle of the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita. And so this is the plan of the Lord. There's plans within plans. So many Vedic literatures. When we come to the Srimad Bhagavatam, stories within stories, plans within plans. So this shows how carefully Krishna deals with the living entity. He doesn't want to spoil his feeling that we're actually making the choices, but he sort of gives us the opportunity to make the right choices. And it's like first, if we hear what the right choice is or read about it, then, that solves the whole problem. But usually we have to see, the results of not following that choice. And if we're really, stubborn or really unintelligent, then we have to get a reaction, a strong reaction, which corrects us. Argument ad baculum. That means the danda. And so this is the situation in this Kali Yuga now that, this movement started and it's starting to take effect. But we can see that it's not getting any easier to preach. In fact, when I first started practicing devotional service in the early 80s, people with tendency, they were more liberal and more open-minded, and they would give it a try for some time at least. But now it's not so easy. People, even though they've been interfacing with the devotees, they come to the temple, they get an opportunity to take prasadam and hear the Bhagavatam and enjoy kirtan and different practices. Still, they don't fully take it up. We may not see them again, or they may have seen them after a long time. So, there's so many distractions. We've got all the gadgets, the internet, the mobiles, or the smartphones. And so, there's no, it seems like limitless choices. So now we have a situation where, I think everybody knew that we would have to lock down anyway. The writing was on the wall. China dared to lock down and they started to get some results. Italy a little later, they're locking down like anything, and they don't seem to be getting any results at the moment. And then we did a little bit, but now it's going to come to a point where we'll be in the same situation as Italy if everything goes the way it's going. So this seems to be inhibiting people's freedom. And, we have to see Krishna's plan behind it. There's nothing independent of the Supreme Personality of God. Not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. And especially at this time, I was reading about, just on the downside for a while, we'll come to the upside in a minute, so don't worry. I was reading about the different, viruses and diseases that have actually, of the past few hundred years which have come. First there was the Black Plague. There was 200 million people lost their lives. And then the smallpox, 300 million. So I heard them speaking on the television that there will be 400,000 people. But who knows that? We don't know that. So we have to be prepared to preach in this situation. You know, it gives us a chance to think out of the box. You know, we've got our own little area of activity, and we don't usually go beyond that. This is devotional service. But, you know, Prabhupada, he definitely had to think out of the box. He had to come from a completely counter-cultural situation in India to a diametrically opposed situation in the States. But he was intelligent enough to apply the process. He lived in the house of Sally Agarwal. When he first landed in Boston, he went to Butler, Pennsylvania. And for 2 or 3 weeks, he seemingly didn't have anything to do. But he was observing the activities of the people of that time, of the Americans, how they lived, what they did. And he could ascertain that what he would have to do in order to get the message through. Even when he got off the boat in Boston, when it first anchored, before it went to New York, he went for a visit with Captain Pandya into the Boston town, and he came back and he wrote the famous poem, Marking Bhagavat Dham. Marking Bhagavat Dham, that's right. You know, preaching Krishna consciousness in the West. And he wrote a poem which explained how, you know, he was saying that I don't even know why you've brought me here. Everybody is absorbed in the modes of passion and ignorance. How will they understand this message? But, you know, you're the ultimate mystic. You're the supreme mystic. So you can make me, you can fulfill the purport of my name, Bhakti Vedanta. So, you know, make me, if you want me to practice, to preach this process, then I'm your puppet. So make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. And then I heard it on this morning, or was it yesterday morning, one lecture by Prabhupada. He was talking about the appearance of, or disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he said, who knew that I would meet my great master? Who knew? And his voice was choked up, his voice was breaking. He said, who knew I would actually come to the West and preach Krishna consciousness? Who knew? Who knew I would actually meet so many devotees in the West? And so even Prabhupada, he was actually making the same point. This is the inconceivable plan of the Lord. And so the Lord has an inconceivable plan for every single one of us in our devotional service. And in the present moment, we have to try and see his inconceivable plan in this pandemic that we're in now. And it's a time for the devotees to really think about how we can use this. It seems to be, by material standards, that we're just going to be locked up for, I don't know how many months. I've heard 3 months, 4 months. How many months, we don't know. But we're going to be locked away. You know, we can't really get close to one another. We can't get close to anybody else. So the preaching stops. But I don't think that's the case. I was listening to one Mataji on the internet, and she was saying that she was examining the Christians and their feature on the internet, how they preach on the internet. And she said it's amazing. They're really actually active. And so are we actually making full advantage of these things? You know, are we being, there's 4 types of it. Well, there's 2 types of intelligence. One is busy intelligence and one's lazy intelligence. I think maybe we're a little bit busy intelligent. We're trying to do everything ourselves. But maybe this is a time to become lazy intelligent. I mean, this internet can we distribute books? Has anybody really tried? Maybe for a short while. There's never been really any push to do that. But now we have to do. We can't meet people face to face. It's too dangerous. Harinam, that's less dangerous, but even that won't be appreciated after some time by the public. If they see that we're actually out when everybody should be indoors. Food distribution, maybe that's one way we can, people will appreciate. But really, I think that every single one, I'm looking on the list here, we've got Padmalochan Prabhu, Hare Krishna, we've got Shankar, what's it, Shankar Aspan? Shankar, then APSN, I don't know what. Gauranath Raj, Bob Ladd, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. Bhakti Mataji. Madhavin Nayani. Bhakti Mataji again. James Buckingham. I don't know whether there's anybody else on this, just let me check. Oh, that's it. Anyway, that's good. We've got a reasonable turnout. So yeah, coming to the point is that every single one I can see on that list, we're all capable. A lot of you actually use the internet or work with the internet, work with computers. So instead of just why don't we just think about how we can preach on the internet? How we can make, something which is not just going to ask for these few months or whatever it takes, but it may even change the destiny of the actual preaching of the whole movement. We would really dived into it. I mean, everyone on this list, I'm not a computer expert, but we can all have a separate channel on YouTube and just start using our intellect and our versatility to start presenting Krishna consciousness in a suitable way to the audience that we want to meet. And we become preachers in our own right. How many devotees have we got in the movement? In England, say if we've got, just for a figure, if there's 1,000 and they're all preaching to 20 people, that's 20,000 people that we're interactive with. We're actually preaching Krishna consciousness. And what are we doing? At the moment, we're going out distributing books, and I don't think there's so much follow-up. It could be improved a lot. How many devotees are making from books? Not many. We have a Sunday program. How many devotees come? Occasionally we get new people, not very often, and only few. What else is there? Food for life. We can't really measure that so much. So it's, compared to what we could do, we've got probably 10 people on this list, and if each of us decided to do that, we grow in our Krishna consciousness. We'd actually start to expand our ability to preach. We'd expand our ability to do devotional service. We'd surprise ourselves. This is how it works. It's like the stretch zone. We go into the stretch zone and we find out, it's not so much of a stretch after all, and we can do it. So we have to do that. We have to keep flexing the muscles, going beyond what we're used to doing, and going a little bit further. And when we do that, actually devotional service becomes more exciting. So this is an exciting time. I'm sure a lot of you can think of other ways, but just want to have our own preaching program on the internet. That's something everybody could do. What's the problem? Everybody knows the philosophy to a degree that's, most people out there don't. So obviously there's going to be a transference of knowledge in whatever way or form we think is suitable for that class of audience. we've got some. To make use of the self-isolation period, Manchester Temple will have to Bhagavatam sets available next week. Some regional languages as well at reduced price. Please secure a set for your friends and family. In case you already have for yourself postal delivery options to out of Manchester available at reasonable cost. Barbara Farmer, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So yeah, we read in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita the way society is going, and what is the way they're going. Of course, they're becoming more and more dependent on material situation, forgetting the Supreme Lord, become more and more absorbed in the wrong things. So therefore, their destination is very, very lamentable. And so, Krishna could just leave it like that. They just carry on, and then eventually they sink to the most abominable type of activity. But this is like a special mercy in one respect. We read in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it's 10th chapter, 88th, 10th canto, 88th chapter, text number 8, there's one nice verse. Yashaham anagrinami harisheta dhanamshanai tato gyanam tadantyasya svajana dukha dukitam. And Krishna's, expressing how he can be merciful to a devotee. And he says that when I especially favor somebody, then I gradually take away all his opulence, all his wealth. And then his friends and relatives, they abandon him. And then he has no alternative but to take shelter of me. And, Prabhupada, he was in that situation. And when he read this, he started to chuckle to himself. He looked like being a big business magnate. And he was making plans to preach Krishna consciousness through that. And then all of a sudden, ching, 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 he started losing things, and it all went. And he finished if he didn't have anything. And so at that point, even his wife, wife's supposed to be the support of the husband. She wasn't supporting him in his Krishna conscious preaching, even though he used to have programs in the house. She would go in another room and drink tea and have tea biscuits. But one day she actually saw Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita manuscript for tea biscuits. And when Prabhupada, questioned, he says, Prabhupada told her, you'll have to make a choice between tea biscuits and me. And she said, well, it looks like I'm going to have to, give up my husband for tea biscuits. She was joking, but Prabhupada wasn't. And then he actually left that situation. Later he actually explained that it wasn't an easy thing. It was very difficult for him. And so then he eventually took Vanaprastha, and then he took sannyas in 1959. And he was in the Vamsi Vat temple in Vrindavan, and he read this verse, and that's when he started laughing, that he realized Krishna had taken everything. But then he said, where are my friends? Where are my relatives? Where is this? Where is that? It's no longer there. So this is the material world. As we grow older, we start to see our relatives, they all pass away. Even brothers and sisters sometimes. And then we see the place we used to know change. And then we start to realize that actually this is not my home. The thing which I've been identifying with, even as a devotee to some degree, for so long, is going to be finished up. We're not going to have any identification with it. And where will we be? same again, same cycle, another situation, becoming attached to it, developing friendships, thinking this is life, being temporarily happy, and then sad, sukha dukkha, and then, losing the human form of life eventually by that activity. So Krishna's brought, so we can see that as he does for devotees, he takes away things. I think everybody can understand that to some degree. It's taking away everything from the world at the moment. I've seen the leaders when they come on the television, they're not, in the beginning of this particular pandemic, they were like pretty confident. But now they're not. You see them come on and they say they're worried. They're worried to death. The only reason we didn't shut down or lock down 2 weeks ago or earlier is because of the financial situation. The country stands to lose everything. And so otherwise, common sense would have said that we should have shut down 2 or 3 weeks ago and, kill the epidemic before it got going, while it was still on the slow up curve. Now it's on the, what do you call it? It's exponential now. Now it'll just accelerate. But anyway, that's another thing. But they still try to hang on to what they've got until now we're in a difficult situation. And so, what can they do? They can't do anything. I remember seeing one program on television, one film. It was no, it wasn't. It was in the 70s, late 60s and 70s, and there was one pair of tapes came out. They had tapes at that time. It was called War of the Worlds. I don't know if anybody can remember that. Some of you probably weren't even born then, but War of the Worlds, and there was what do you call that famous actor? Very, very nice voice. He was commentating on it, and what's the point now? We've got a little bit. He was commentating on it, and the small, the Martians, they landed on this planet, and they got these huge tripods, and their weapons were, centuries in front of the things that we had. And they were just taking over the planet and destroying everything. Everybody was like, the cities were becoming deserted. So many diseases were starting to manifest. And they were, because the Martians, their particular planet was in disarray, they'd come to take the Earth planet. And then, at one point, all of a sudden, the Martians started dying. The tripods would just collapse. And then they realized that after some time that they were all completely wiped out. They just died. And then they analyzed it, the doctors and the technicians, and they did some tests, and they found that what had killed them was the smallest thing on the planet. It was a cold germ. Completely. And so that's what's happening now, that, all our big leaders and big industrialists and big this, that, and the other, now they realize that they're not big anything. The smallest thing on the planet is actually starting to, take over. But anyway, maybe not to the degree that it did in the War of the Worlds. But so this is actually a sobering thing for society. And this will help. This is a perfect time to start preaching. It's perfect, as the weeks go on, if they do go on like this, then, people become more and more receptive. We can't go out. We can put interesting titles on the internet, which is related to this situation, and have interesting alternatives, and gradually lead them in. And then, we can actually have book distribution little section which says if you want more information, we have books on, anyway, I'm not an expert in advertising, but then we can actually distribute book or even lecture tapes or even soft books, and do and people will be interested for the right reasons, not because we say, excuse me, and give some, attractive lines which, attracts them for some time, and then give them a book they don't really want. When they get it on, think, what have I bought here? This is what happens most of the time in our book distribution. People are temporarily enamored. Some people are interested, but at least the books are going out there. Now we have a chance to distribute books to people who are actually ready for it. So this is a very auspicious time, just like Yashaham and Green Army, that, Krishna takes away everything from his devotee at the end. And he will do. Every one of us will lose everything. Well, we'll see at that time, he'll take it when we're ready. Oh, we should aspire to be ready. And and then we can become attached to Krishna. So in the same way, this is special mercy on society. He says very special mercy that, the devotees can really capitalize on Krishna's plan. This is the way I see Krishna's plan. It's not forced to be that way, but I feel pretty confident we can do something in this situation. But it's not just like the sannyasis or the brahmacharis or one or two who, usually distribute the books. We've got past that. It's everybody. We're all capable, more capable than me than preaching. I ain't got a clue how to preach on the internet. I'll have to learn though. I'm going to learn over the next week or so. But some of you are very expert. And, everybody knows enough philosophy to get through and to answer people's questions. So whatever, it can be just a podcast, or it can be questions and answers on certain subjects. And then we'll learn how to preach to different classes of people in appropriate ways. We'll grow in our devotional service. They'll grow. Society, at the end of all this, we don't know what will be left. But at least it's people very quickly get back into the mad rush again. As soon as, it's like this. Sometimes we think the suffering will never end. Has anybody had that? When you get a difficult situation, it seems to be for a long time. But then as soon as it's finished, we're back to forgetfulness again, back into our own. So that's what will happen. So this is a really auspicious time while people are on the thoughtful platform to be in there. There was one class by, somebody was telling me by one devotee in America, by Shankar. He was saying that in China, there was one monk, one Chinese monk, and he wrote a few words about the situation there. And he said, for the first time in many, many years, people are actually talking to one another in the house. They have time for one another. They're not out, at different times. Nobody's got time to speak. They just, wife working, husband working, children at, at the nursery or at school. So everybody's now together and it's peaceful. So they will get a little bit of a taste from being away from all that. They realise that, life does go on without the madness. These are a few words anyway about, lockdown. It's lockdown. Lockdown so means how do we increase our bhakti? What does bhakti mean? It's not just our own devotional service. We can do that as well. We can chant more rounds. We can, read more books, and then we'll become more qualified to preach, and we'll have more ammunition to preach with. We'll become full of the desire to give when we do that. First, we have to top up, and then we can give. So this is my plea: don't waste this time. The material energy is expert that taking away our time. Even I remember my father, he used to work, 8 hours a day or more by the time you've travelled and everything. And then one day he said to me after being retired for a year or two, he says, I've got less time now than I had when I was working. In other words, things come along and take your time up. So that's what will happen in this period. Things will come along and take the time up. So we have to say, are these actually things we really want to do? It's time we wouldn't have. It's time we can give to Krishna. So forget about, or not, you can't forget about everything, but we should give a quantum, a huge amount of, or as much time as possible to this preaching program. Yeah, so the rains in May, sorry, it's wrong one. The rains in April are the showers that bring the flowers in May. In other words, this is the material world. Now, externally, everything is in the doldrums. But, then there'll be a new start, and there'll be a fresh start for all the materialists to really get back into it again. That's when, but it's like for the devotees, it's also the same, that we've got lockdown, but if we use it properly, it can become a really spiritually profitable time for both ourselves and the general congregation and the general people. How to unlock Bhakti. This is the point I'm making, is that, Bhakti means, what does it mean in Nectar of Devotion? Nectar of Devotion, it says, Bhakti means activity. It's not just a feeling of the heart. It can be a feeling of the heart. But, if we just say, I love you, what's the proof if we don't do anything? And so Bhakti means activity. And so if we want to unlock our real Bhaktis, then let's really please Krishna by making the best of what seems to be a bad bargain. It'll never be a bad bargain for the devotees. Even if the devotee has to leave his body, it'll not be a bad bargain, because, Krishna's in the equation. And so simultaneously, we have to be both positive and enthusiastic, but responsible. After this episode is over, and it will, we have to leave it, the public with a really good taste for the devotees and for Krishna consciousness. So, we have to see what is favorable for making them feel positive towards the devotees. And we have to use our intelligence. And like Krishna, like Narada Muni, he uses intelligence. He's also indirect preacher. So many different times he preaches indirectly. And Lord Krishna, that's his process, indirect preaching. The whole Bhagavatam is indirect. He doesn't smash the false ego. He just loosens it a little bit so that, some information can go in there. Yeah, what's that verse? There's one nice verse. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, Sajjakavanai, Savarnadi Siddhi Karya Odai. This pure love for Krishna, or this Bhakti, it's eternally situated in the heart. It's, when we're actually, we're eternal, but, right from the very beginning, we've always had this ability. This Bhakti is there in the heart. It just has to be ignited by the proper process. And in this age of Kali, the process is Sankirtan Yajna. So although we're not able to do, technically we can do street chanting at the moment, but I don't know how long for. I don't know whether it's actually a good advertisement at the moment. That's up to the individuals to work out for themselves. But you know, this Sankirtan movement, what does it mean? Complete glorification of the Lord. The glorification, to a large extent, has been done by the full-time devotees in the temple and some devotees who are, you know, regulars to the temple. But let's go to the next stage, make it more complete. San means complete. So we've been complete, and now it's becoming more complete. And then we want to become most complete. And that means everybody, you know, are becoming more connected with the Sankirtan movement. So these are a few words I wanted to say anyway. And individually, like I said, we can spend more time in our own and do the things that we've always don't let anything get in the way of doing the things that when we saw the opportunity, we thought this is the time to actually start doing things I've wanted to do, but I've never had time. Unless we start doing them, then the material energy will come in and it'll engage us. Okay, so I mean, we've been speaking for 3/4 of an hour. So I think if we have any questions, and I'm sure this is a topic where we could, maybe I can't hear you, but I can see what you write. If you want to write any questions, I can try to answer them. How is everybody doing, by the way? Is everybody okay? I'm at present in the Manchester Temple. I was in Newcastle for a week. And then I never stay for the time being. Yeah, in that verse, Yaksha and Agrinani, you know, Prabhupada saying that as well as taking away our material attachments so that we've nobody else to surrender but Krishna, he's also, he takes away our karma. You know, when we become serious about devotional service, then it takes away all the backlog of karma we've had for so many lifetimes. And this is why we become enlivened in devotional service. And it gives us an opportunity to serve with full enthusiasm. And so Krishna is always doing that. You know, devotees, it's like a person who's lost his father, what they call him an orphan. He says, but so people are orphans in this material world. And the devotees are also orphans. He says, but a devotee is not like the orphans of the general orphans of this world. You know, people may lose their material father. And people have forgotten the real father, Krishna. He says, but Krishna takes personal care of his devotee. Material energy through karma and through the jurisdiction of the demigods is creating people's reactions, both good and bad. But for a devotee, but the point is what happens when they get a reaction, good or bad, then there's an ongoing result which carries on the karma. You know, the tendency is there to carry on that way when once we perform an activity. And this takes us from one situation to another. Karana guna sangasya sadasattanma yonisu. But when Krishna puts his devotee into difficulty or starts to take away the karma, it doesn't, as I say, you know, it says if we want something in this world, even if we're full of desires, sarva karma, he says that if we approach Krishna, he will give us that. But at the time and circumstance when we won't create more attachment and it won't perpetuate the karma. he says that the three deities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu. So Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they usually give the sincere worshipper the result very quickly. Like Lord Brahma and Hiranyakashipu, Lord Shiva and Ravan, and Vrikasura. He says, but Krishna is very thoughtful. Lord Hari is very thoughtful. He really thinks about, will this actually do my devotee any good? So rest assured, whatever is happening now, it's doing the devotees good. He's very thoughtful. So we should be very introspective and see how we can capitalize on that. There's one question here from Shankar. Maharaj, although we are in lockdown, we don't know, just click forward. Just a minute. Something happened there. It's gone. Halfway through reading it and it went. Okay, so the next one is Manish. Message retracted. Oh, James Buckingham. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I'm hoping to spread Krishna consciousness in Warrington. Oh, Haribol, James, I know who it is now. No presence. Is there any advice that you could provide, please? I'd love to do a kirtan or a harinam. Haribol. Yeah, you can do a kirtan and a harinam on your own. Even Prabhupada did that if you really want to. Just get a pair of cartels and chant. Carry a few books in a bag. And if people become inquisitive, give them a book. No problem. But we're just speaking actually how, we don't necessarily have to go out there at the moment, or it may not be possible to go out there at some point. So if you know anybody who's expert on the internet, we can try preaching on the internet as well. But yeah, any advice to do that, even after this is all over, is that, and even before it gets underway, is if you want to preach on the street, then Harinam is the way now. I'd be careful about approaching people with books. I don't think it'd be, you may not get a good reaction after some time. I know Pragosh Prabhu was saying that he was in the chemist and everybody was 2 yards apart. And one person broke that etiquette and they all got on his case. They were all angry at him. So, we have to be careful as devotees that we don't recklessly start breaking that etiquette. Not that we want to anyway, because we're practicing devotional service doesn't mean we can't get coronavirus. So we have to be a little bit intelligent. So my advice is maybe Harinam Sankirtan at the moment. Maybe not book distribution. It might be not so good for you or anybody you're associating with. That's my personal thoughts. Shankar Maharaj, although we are in lockdown and detached with most of the worldly material comforts, we are in constant fear of Corona Asura due to social platforms flooded with lots of messages. How to overcome this situation and concentrating Krishna consciousness? Well, if you keep reading about it, that's the way it's going to affect you. We become like our association. So my advice is, keep in tune with what's happening so you know what precautions to take. But then you should read Bhagavatam and you should contact devotees regularly. Everybody should start speaking more together. It's a time to, develop our relationships in the community of devotees. and we should all ring around and see how others are doing from one another. We actually become closer due to, we've got so many ways we can contact now. You know, we're on YouTube, and then there's WhatsApp, there's the ordinary messages, the telephone, the Skype, the Zoom. You know, we can actually become closer together. You know, what's that? Service in separation. Vipralam the Saver. So, yeah, so we should be regularly contacting one another, reading Bhagavatam. As soon as we start reading Bhagavatam, there's one nice verse. I can't remember, I think it's in the 11th canto. But he said, as soon as we start hearing the message of Bhagavatam, then we become freed from all anxiety. And he says, we don't, not only that, we become freed from being envious of one another, just by, you know, listening to the sound vibration of Bhagavatam, at least for the time being. So, you know, do a fair share of hearing the philosophy and chanting the Maha Mantra, do extra chanting, do extra reading, and like that, speak to devotees. And we'll actually find that we become fearless to this coronavirus, that, you know, Rakhi Krishna Marike, Mari Krishna Rakike. We can't do anything we don't know what our destiny is going to be at any moment. So devotees shouldn't be fearful because his future's secure, Prabhupada said in one verse. He's going back to Godhead. So if we're reading the literatures and hearing regularly, we'll be fixed in that consciousness automatically. So that's my advice anyway. The more we focus on something, the more it gets bigger. So if we focus on Bhakti, then it'll get bigger. And then the material fears and tribulations will become less. Okay, it's 25 past now. Is there any more comments or any more questions? Okay, we can stop there then. Thank you for all tuning in. So I don't know, the next class will probably be on Sunday, I suppose. I suppose Dayananda has got all that worked out. So we'll see you. Hopefully I can tune into class on somebody else gives as well, maybe. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.